Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So it's the beginning of the end of this franchise mode for this team, because in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had the first round of the playoffs against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and unfortunately this team lost in the first round, so I don't think there's really much of a chance for us to win a Stanley Cup. Now, we are going to be obviously trying things to try and get our team that Stanley Cup, but I don't really know if we have a good opportunity to do so, because obviously we barely made it into the playoffs and then we got knocked out in the first round. So hoping that we can maybe get a little bit better, but obviously this team is getting quite old. We didn't have any retirements in last episode, which actually was a pretty big surprise. So guys like Crane, Harris, who was the other one, Makinen, they all didn't retire. So this entire team should be back again next season unless we decide to lose some people to free agency. So maybe there is still a chance we could get back to the playoffs for the final season, but I honestly don't really know if this team has a chance to get very far in the playoffs just because of what happened this season. So anyways, with that said, let's get you guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will get into the draft and resign stage and see what we end up doing in terms of keeping this team together or making some adjustments. So the first comment is from Michael Dose, who says, "Isn't the saying when you have two goalies, you really have none? Isn't it better to have a 90 plus with a backup at maybe 80 to 82? And that's kind of an interesting one. I think in franchise mode, obviously, it would be nice to have a 90 overall goaltender. I feel like, though, from what I've seen, when you have a lot of high-end goaltenders or actually have one high-end goaltender, they usually don't simulate that good in the playoffs. So I feel like having two guys that are pretty similar overall is really not that bad, to be honest. But if we go to, say, a team, let's see if we could find a high-end goaltender here. I guess like this Vorobyov guy, 89 overall. How does he simulate when it comes to regular season and playoffs? Career 910% save percentage in the regular season. That's actually really solid. Playoffs, he has a career 921, but he has only been in the playoffs 3 times. So actually, he simulates pretty good for being an 89. Let's check a couple other elite goalies while we're at it, just to kind of see if it actually makes sense if we wanted to have a better goaltender as a starter. Grellinger, career 913 save percentage in regular season, 913 in the playoffs. So far, the high-end goalies actually do seem to be simulating decently, which is kind of surprising to me because in the past, at least, I feel like I've seen some good goalies not simulate that well. Koskaraina's got a career 910 save percentage, and in the playoffs, a 917, so another good goaltender. So actually, these elite goalies might actually simulate good when it comes to the playoffs and regular season. Pronger so far maybe the worst of the bunch, a career 909, but he does have 30 career shutouts. Playoffs, he has the exact same save percentage, so relatively consistent of a goaltender. Obviously, we've seen Nicholas recently because he's been really good for the Oilers. Vikingstad, who's an elite goaltender, career 905 save percentage, not the best. Playoffs a 918 though. So yeah, maybe some of these elite goalies actually do simulate decently, which is interesting because, like I said, I'm pretty sure, at least in other games, I've never seen elite goalies simulate that well. So if we're looking at like Knight, let's see, does he simulate good? Career 906 save percentage, playoffs a 915. Yeah, maybe they actually all do simulate decently. Like, seems like so far, at least, anybody that's listed as elite actually has good save percentage in terms of the playoffs. Beta is maybe the worst of the bunch, 905 and a 906, but Carolina could be a weak team. Let's take a look at a few other people while we're at it, just because I am actually kind of curious on that, if there's all these elite goalies and they simulate good. 909 in the regular season for Dawes, 908 in the playoffs. Hasn't had a lot of playoff experience, though. Anaheim doesn't have anybody good. Just trying to look through every single team so we can kind of have an idea at least of elite goalies if they simulate decently. Roussel in Vancouver, 903 in a regular season, never played in the playoffs. Vancouver's a bit of a bad team, so I guess that's kind of an outlier. There is also Tanev in Tampa, an 899 career save percentage. That's definitely the worst. Now, Tampa hasn't been great, I guess. And in playoffs, a 924 career playoff save percentage is really good, though. Huh, that's interesting. So, yeah, this guy actually simulates really good, too, in the playoffs, but not during the regular season. Prindis in Seattle, I think I've seen him up there for a few times. 912 in the regular season, 916 in the playoffs, damn. Yeah, I guess the elite goalies actually might simulate good, which is really weird because I'm pretty sure, at least before this game, elite goalies were not simulating that well. Howe's a 914 in the regular season, 910 in the playoffs. So maybe it would be a good idea at some point to have a better end goaltender in this team. Obviously, I'm not too sure if that would be a great idea, but 890 in the playoffs for this guy, but he's only got 1 year of playoff experience. That's interesting. What about this guy? Is he elite? No, he's just a starter, but he's got exact elite potential. And not the best playoff stats, but it looks like in general, at least, it seems like some of these guys have decent save percentages for being elite goalies. We looked at our goalies. Obviously, our goalies aren't elite yet, but some of them could grow to elite. Their career playoff numbers actually are pretty good with Irwin. It was Bergenheim who didn't have good playoffs in his career, right? 912, 866 in the playoffs. That's atrocious, but it's through 3 games. So not a lot of experience, but in general, it seems like a lot of goalies actually assimilate well in franchise mode just as a whole. So that's kind of interesting just to keep note of, I guess, if in future franchise modes, because I don't know if we're going to get an elite goalie in this franchise mode. If we have, like, in next year when we do in NHL 26 a Draft to Glory franchise mode, if we ever have a goalie 90 plus, maybe they'll actually help us win some games in terms of the playoffs and all that. And the last and final comment is from Simon Taku. It says you could probably lower the prices of those UFAs further by adding a clause to their contracts. Leave Over in the AHL for now, but you could easily call him up and trade one of your NHL goalies if one is having a bad season. Check some of the medium top 6 forwards to see if one might be NHL ready. So, yeah, I think Over will probably stay in the AHL, even though he is almost basically an NHL goaltender. And then if one of these guys is off to a bad start next season, we could easily trade one away and maybe upgrade somewhere else, like for instance a top 6 forward, or maybe or maybe a defensive addition or something like that. I'm not too sure, but I think for now, keeping him in the AHL is decent, because obviously that means then we have 3 really good goalies. I do think Over would go through waivers. So, actually, no, he doesn't right now. I'm not too sure about next season, but if he doesn't go through waivers next season, we could easily send him up and down if there's injury trouble. But obviously, if one goalie's not playing good, Over could just get the call up, and then we could probably sign one of our unsigned goalie prospects instead. Because actually, we don't even have any unsigned goalie prospects. Damn. So that might be something we'll look into in this draft then. That's kind of interesting. I didn't even realize that. Alright, so there is that. Also, one thing I wanted to show you guys is I was actually, just basically before this recording, I basically decided to go into Google Gemini, and I was like, I showed the AI our lines basically and said, hey, what could we do about these lines to make them better? This team's never won a Stanley Cup before. And one thing that was interesting that it suggested, I will actually show you guys on screen here. So basically, if we get over this, let me just make sure I'm showing the right thing. Yes, I am. So, yeah, basically, you can see that it looked at our lines here, and it gave, like, some adjustments, ideas, and stuff like that. Chemistry issues, and mentions age profile, stuff like that, which is really cool, too. But it does say, like, each line it breaks down, and it says, for the first line with Dempsey, maybe look to basically upgrade from Dempsey. That's what its suggestion is, to find an 85-plus overall player to play next to Mäkinen, and also Crane. I don't know why it says Mäkinen and Crane are 94 or 91, because in the screenshot I sent, I'm pretty sure they were obviously like 84 and 81 or something like that. So it's kind of strange that it would say that, but obviously still putting a good goal scorer next to them that's 85 plus might not be a bad idea, and upgrading from Dempsey. It then also looked at our second line. It says maybe we should upgrade from Ashton as a second line center. Third line, it said, trade a target, target a trade or free agent signing for a stronger third line center and or wingers. So I guess it doesn't think this is very strong. And then the fourth line as well was saying the same type of thing. It lacks high-end chemistry and talent, which obviously I don't really think that matters too much in the bottom 6, but obviously from a top 6 perspective, basically, like, kind of upgrading the center depth could be something we look into. Ashton is a pending free agent this year. And then Dempsey, finding maybe a replacement for him might not be a bad idea. Now, from a defensive standpoint, because I didn't send the goaltenders, defensively, it said that our top pairing of Holmstrom and Schaefer is good. But it does say that the second pairing of Ekblad and Jersina is quite weak. Jersina is not really that great. And it also says that our top 6 pairing is a little bit on the weaker end as well. So maybe we'd look to upgrade our defensive core a little bit, but in general, it's kind of interesting what it suggests, like putting Jersina and Dempsey on the block, also some other low-rated players as well. So kind of neat that AI could actually look at my screenshot and just show some suggestions based on that. So We might take some of those ideas into account, but I'm not too sure. Really depends what's out there. But upgrading from Dempsey might be a play just because everybody else is pretty much around the same overall. And also, we do technically have Schmaltz signed into next year, so maybe Schmaltz gets a bigger chance with us next year. I don't really know, but tough to move on from Dempsey if we do, because he's been a good, consistent goal scorer, but we might be able to find somebody else better out there. He was really good for us in the playoffs, though, this year, so that's also kind of a tough thing for us, but he does have a high cap hit, so if we need to free up cap space, maybe he is the play to move out this offseason, so that is that, and I think we're ready to get into this draft. Also, if you did not see on the community tab, there is a poll out for who should make the channel Hall of Fame for the series, so go vote on that. And obviously, we will announce who makes the Hall of Fame in the finale episode, which is only a few episodes away if we do end up missing the playoffs or losing in the first round of the playoffs. So let's go to this draft and see what we end up snagging up. And we will also look into some potential trades. Like I said, we might see if we could upgrade from Dempsey potentially. Let's just keep it on the draft class part of this right now. Let's go offer trade. Actually, should I go find trade on Dempsey and just see if there's any options out there? I don't know if there will be right now, but might as well take a look. Like I said, I'm not too sold on moving out Dempsey, but his value is pretty low. He has been a pretty solid player, but his cap hit is pretty high for his overall, so the only trades found, Fairchild and Courtnall, which are both prospects. Fairchild's probably not that good, so we're probably going to have to make a trade of our own if we wanted to move Dempsey for something, but he doesn't really have a lot of value. I was hoping he'd have a bit more, because if he had more value, then we could easily flip him and get ourselves an upgraded player, but he does not have a lot of value whatsoever. Is there any interesting right wingers out there that could potentially upgrade our top 6? Let me just move my face actually down here for the time being. Why not? I'm just trying to look at all the right wingers in the league here. 86 overall at 26, 12.8 one more year, so he's basically a penny free agent. That's going to be too expensive. Stevenson signed for an extra year. He's a 20-year-old. Not going to bring him in because it doesn't make sense for that team to move him. 87 overall in Yashin. One more year left at 15.4. Goddamn. But a no movement clause. Blanchard, 1 year left, so he'd be a pending free agent. That's interesting. I wonder if this guy will actually head to free agency or not. He might have an extension in place, but he is a grinder only. So he's not really a goal scorer. I kind of want to find a high-end right winger. Ooh, Bowman might be I know he's a pending RFA. I was going to say he could be a pending UFA. He does also have an 8-year extension in place at $16 million. So shout out to that man for securing the bag. Kuka, we know, is good in Columbus. He's making too much money, too much term. I don't think there's any way I could justify $13 million for an 85. I'm trying to find like a cheap guy that might actually be good. Rensfeldt, 31 years old, just won multiple cups, so that doesn't make sense. There is Burnett, but he has a clause. Ouellette, nobody there. Alexandrov. There does seem like a weakness on right wingers across the league. Damn, Domingue signed for 7 years. That's crazy. Wong, 1 year, but he's going to be an RFA. I'm not seeing really anybody. Wallace is still in New York. Dempsey for wow, there's a Dempsey in Ottawa, so we could literally do a Dempsey for a Dempsey. This guy's actually pretty good though as of last season. 87 points. Oh, all right, and we're getting interrupted, of course, so let's go back to that. Let's go back offer trade again, but maybe we need to bring in a different Dempsey. I like how it just automatically threw that back up there again. Let's go to Ottawa. They don't want our Dempsey though, unfortunately. But it would be funny to bring in another Dempsey. But yeah, this guy's actually pretty decent as of the last few years. He only made the NHL recently, so he doesn't have a lot of experience for his age. But he's starting to become a pretty solid player. It looks like 16 points in 15 AHL playoff games 1 year. But he's had really good years in Ottawa, but nowhere else. So it is a bit of a risky one, so I don't know about that. What else we got here? Kudobin's probably pending RFA because he's only 22. Doesn't seem like a lot of good right wingers in the league. There is this Trevica guy in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's been a good team. Doesn't really make sense for them to part ways with him. Seattle, that's a high cap hit. Klassen, It's no movement clause. Kaminsky is an RFA soon. Manning's not crazy good. Wow. Yeah, there's not really a lot of good right wingers around the league, which is kind of crazy. 12.2 for an 84. No, thank you. No there. Actually, let me go back to Vegas for a second. Penning UFA. This guy might be a free agent this offseason, so maybe he's somebody we could look into in free agency, but he's a grinder that just throws a lot of hits and penalties and all that. Washington, not really seeing anything there either. Wow. To me, there looks like there's not really a lot of good right wingers in the league, so I guess we might as well just hold on to Dempsey at this point. But, yeah, it's kind of surprising. Is there any guys that we could maybe bring in to upgrade from Ashton as that second line center? Actually, Ashton's a pending UFA, right? So we could probably sign one in free agency. So that's probably what we'll end up doing. Ashton's actually technically jumped up to an 85, which is kind of surprising. He did just have a solid season, but yeah, I don't know if I'll bring back Ashton. It really depends on his asking price when we actually get to the re-sign stage, but we will see if we bring him back or not. Definitely that could be an area we upgrade, though. If there's like a 90 overall center in free agency, that would be fantastic, but highly doubt it, almost. All right, anyways, let's take a look at this year's top 5 of the draft. I don't think we're going to actually make any deals in this episode. I was thinking about it, but I think it might be fine just to keep it as is for now, and we can make these type of trades in free agency instead. So anyways, first overall, Dallas took this McDermott guy. Draft class doesn't really matter that much at this point because obviously this is the last draft we're going to see, which means all these guys are only going to get to play 1 year, and that's it. What else we got here? New Jersey taking Harakala, who's a defenseman. All right, good old Finnish DFD. Winnipeg at 3 is going to select Tripp, who's a 78 overall sniper. Zane Tripp. All right. Vancouver at 4 is going to select Duchesne, who's a high top 6 forward. Serge Duchesne. There you go. And Washington at 5 selects an elite center sniper in Cade Alakis. All right. So a lot of snipers here early on in this draft class, which I love to see. All right, let's simulate to our pick at 18th. I honestly don't even really know if we're going to find an NHL ready player here, but we might as well try. But none of these guys are probably going to make it before the series ends, likely. Cedric Stahl, probably a 65. What else we got here? Cole Dunham, probably 65. We have Wesley Gertson, probably 65. This guy's no guaranteed on a top 6. He looks okay in terms of some stuff. Komatov. Wow, yeah, this draft class might not even be that good, to be honest, too. There is a low elite defenseman that I mentioned in last episode in Jars. I honestly might have to go with him, but I'm trying to see if there's any NHL ready top 6 forwards. 65 probably for McMillan. Colin Mayer, still probably a 65. Yeah, this draft class honestly is not great. There is that low elite sniper I was mentioning. He would be only like a 65, but do we have any picks in next round? I don't remember. I do not remember. Let's see. We have 2 third rounders, but only our one first rounder, no seconds. I mean, I could try and move up to get those guys if I want to, but I'm at the point where I honestly don't care about these draft classes much unless there's somebody that could impact our team right away. This guy's 2 years out, Matteo Trotter, but still not 1 year out. Then we don't know anything about Elijah Spencer. What about Ryder? Ryder's probably just a 60-something as well. Don't know anything about Klingberg. I guess we might as well just go for the best available, which looks to be Trotter. It would be another Trotter on this team, but this guy's 2 years out, so we might as well take him, honestly. Matteo Trotter, welcome aboard. 67 overall. Okay, I was hoping he'd be like more higher, like a 70 something, but I'll take it. But he will not make it before the series ends, so that's unfortunate, but that's the way it works. All right, let's simulate to our next pick at 82nd, unless I want to try and move up, but at this point I don't think it's even necessary to do so, so let's just simulate to pick 82. I know there's those low elites and stuff that would have been nice, but I honestly could care less. We do need goalie prospects. That was the thing that I just mentioned, so Booth might not be a bad option. Just to say we have a goalie prospect in the system. Also, because if we do end up calling up our boy Oliver, or Oliver? Is it Oliver or Olver? I don't remember. I think it's Oliver. If we end up calling him up at the halfway point of the season and trading one of our starters, we do need another goalie prospect to give for our AHL team. So let's draft this Booth guy. Might as well. 47 overall. Pretty low of an overall, but he is AHL eligible, so he might get signed in the part of the season if we need more goalies to play down there. I know the game will automatically sign me one, but I would probably prefer a prospect. Another third round pick here. What do we got? What do we got? Anybody with good potential? Let's see. No guarantees on any of these dudes. Of course, this last draft class has to be one of the worst ones we've seen, I think. Colton Hickey, 20 years old. Probably not very good. Honestly, should just trade away a lot of these picks at this point. Dice, Lovejoy. I'm trying to look for anything that might be a steal. Isbister's a 20-year-old as well. Morozov, 19 years old. Yeah, I don't think it's worth almost even drafting anybody else. There is a medium 6 right there. We might as well just take him for the medium 6 potential. Just so maybe it's more trade value. I don't even know what overall he was, but I don't really care. Let's just go find trade, and we'll trade away. Actually, we won't even go find trade because there's probably not going to be any offers thrown to us. But let's trade away the rest of our picks. I know it's kind of a weird thing to do, especially considering this is the last draft class we're going to be dealing with. But this class is not worth the hassle. And we'll just send it to a team. Let's see. Maybe I could get actually a good player back with this. I'm kind of curious on that. Is there any, like, players that I could bring in? Like, is there a new second-line center I could get in for all those picks, maybe? Just because I am going to be getting rid of probably Ashton, but no guarantees on that. Actually, I should just stay on the screen and just go through them all. Let's see. Anybody interesting at center here? 88 for Zeitz has way too much value. Kuparainen is on their block. He does have an extra years in 85, but... yeah, I don't think he'd be somebody that's worth that type of money. He's probably going to be on the decline soon. No. Looking for somebody special here. It's kind of hard about the clauses as well, though, to actually find somebody that's not actually on a clause. Because when you find somebody, then you realize that they have, like, a no movement, and it's like, damn, man. Columbus wouldn't want to make any of those deals, probably. Strudwick is going to be a UFA at the end of this 2 years. He is a decent player. I don't know how Detroit's done as of recent in the sim engine. Oh, they did just make the playoffs. Yeah, I don't know about that. Would be a decent player, but I think he's probably too much value. And you know what? Let's just trade this for a future pick at this point. These picks are not really worth it. I honestly don't even know. Because we're not going to even actually have the 2049 draft, of course, but we will just try and grab ourselves a second rounder for next year just because might as well. And then we could use that as trade bait or something like that. Let's just do it. Boom. Enjoy the deal there, Florida. So we get ourselves a second round pick that we might use in a trade this year. So I think that's at least a win-win because I don't think the rest of this class is worth it in the slightest. So there's our last draft of this franchise mode. I know it was not a great one, but honestly didn't see much out there. Trotter is a decent prospect that if we had more than 25 years, we'd be able to see probably. Booth is a solid starting prospect as well, but Bartley, I don't really know if that guy's going to develop at all, but didn't expect it to be a crazy draft class for us. The more important thing is this Resign stage and who we're letting go of, and if we're going to have a lot of money in the offseason, that type of thing. Now, all of our coaches in the NHL are almost up for renewal, which is interesting. We are going to bring them all back for now, but there is a chance maybe for our last season we'd look for a different coach. We don't have to, but it's something we could look into if we think changing our coaches will help things. This guy's an associate? Yeah, associate. This guy wants to be a head coach, but I don't know if he will be our head coach. I might have to find somebody else. And then this goalie coach will bring you back as well in Malik. Hopefully they all want to come back if possible. So there's the coaches dealt with. How many scouts do we got to re-sign? All of you guys. It technically doesn't matter about re-signing these scouts at this point, but we will still just do it just because I feel like it's still kind of important anyways, just because the future of this team would be Not great if they didn't have any scouts in their organization whatsoever. So maybe I should have focused a bit more on that last draft class, but it was not one that really screamed that good. If I saw a bunch of late round low leads and stuff like that, I'd obviously be focusing on it. But since it literally was a bunch of like bottom six forwards and stuff, I just could not care less about that class. Wengrenowski needs to come back. We always got to make sure that Muhammad's here till the end. Chopper's done as well. Okay, that's good. All right, so how much money do we got to spend in the resign stage? We have $43.86 million, so that's a lot of money, which is good. Buckley is up to a 70 and 19, which is good. He is AHL eligible. I could sign him for the last year. But we do have the contract, the room in the AHL. Let's sign him up, sure. Give him a chance to play in the AHL. I could sign all these guys if I want to, but most of them aren't AHL good enough. So, in terms of our RFAs, let's get some of these guys back on two-way deals that want it. So, like McMillan. Gerard's probably going to want a one-way at this point because he played an NHL season. Yeah, he did. I could qualify him, but I feel like obviously knocking him down to like 1.25 is not going to break the bank. Lysak, we might have to qualify these dudes. Yeah, we'll qualify these guys probably. I know we do have a lot of extra people that were playing in the AHL last season too, like Hybrid and all that, but maybe they could be back up here again next season. It's good just to have that depth in case. Smith is pretty good at this point. He's almost a legit top. Actually, he's a legit top 4. I wouldn't mind signing him long term. It's not a huge asking price. I might come back to him. I could just qualify him for the last year, but there might be teams interested in him, so we'll qualify him for now. Goalie wise, we are going to also, let's see, what does Irwin want? 3.4. Let's bring back Irwin for the time being. Like I said, he might get dealt anyways. He is going to be a pending UFA at the end of this year. Let's do 2.875. That's good for me. We'll bring back Olver. He wants only a two-way deal, so that's good for me as well. And we'll bring back Canzanello as well. So that's all good. UFAs, what do we got here? Oh, yeah, a lot of big UFAs here. Let's go to the bottom of this list first and foremost and let go of the prospects we're not going to sign. Oh, my goodness. Lally Birdie's only got low top 6 defense potential, so let's just let him go. Blanchard's pretty good. Blanchard could be an underdog to make the NHL at some point this season, so that's actually kind of exciting. We do have a lot of these type of like guys like Rummett, Morris, and Menino, but we kind of do need still bodies. So since they want two-way deals, we might just hold on to them anyways. Yeah, let's just bring him back at this point. Auden is a depth defenseman. I'm going to let him go. I'm also going to let go of Jersina, I think. I know he's a penny UFA, and also the AI recommended me to letting go of him. 2.3 for 78, I feel like is too much. We could definitely maybe find some new people in free agency to readjust that defensive core a bit. So I think we're going to let go of Jersina here. Howes was in the AHL all last year, and he was really solid in the AHL. NHL, he's been okay at times. How much is he asking for? He's just a depth forward basically right now at this point. He wants a two-way deal, so you know what? Since he wants a two-way, I'll just give him it. We might as well hold on to him as a depth option. Solo, I know I just brought him back to this organization, but I think I'm also going to make some changes with that top 6 pairing. We're going to make a lot of changes this last season, I think. Try and find some new pieces in free agency. So we're going to let go of Solo. Terry was in the AHL the last few years, and he's probably too good to be in the AHL. He doesn't really want a lot, to be honest, to hold on to, and does still have the organizational interest, which is interesting, but am I going to be able to get him playing time? I mean, I could get him back in the NHL. He has been a good offensive player at the AHL level, but he was making $2 million last time we had him signed, but now he only wants 1.1. And with the organizational interest, I could probably get him to like $1 million, which is not really that bad as a guy that could be in the AHL, gets called up if need be. So that's an interesting one. I'm going to hold off on the time being. Jocelyn as a third-line center has been solid here too. He does have organizational interest, wants not a ton of money either. So, yeah, we might be able to bring back a lot of these guys. I do want to first sign like guys like Kazanov, though. And Crane. Crane needs to retire with this organization. Does still want maybe a bit too much money, but if we add a full-on no trade clause, that should help things a bit. He doesn't have a lot of organizational interest, which kind of sucks. But if I drop this down a bit, now that we have that clause, we should be able to get him, I think, at least down a bar. Maybe not. Damn, that dropped off a lot faster than I expected here. Let's go with like... maybe like 5.125. We'll see, obviously, if you like that or not. Let's try it out. Might as well. Like I said, I think Ashton's probably gone. Yeah, 9.3. I can't really justify 9.3 for him because Zanov, on the other hand, wants $12 million with a no movement clause. Doesn't have organizational interest. That's actually going to hurt a lot if we lose him, but I can't drop this down. If we have the no movement clause, I could probably drop this down by a bar, but you're still thinking of paying him like $10 million. But we probably have to hold on to him at this point. We probably do. I'm going to try and offer him just over $10 million. I know it's a lot of money, but we kind of need to have him back for the last year of this franchise mode, or else this team's going to be even worse in terms of winger depth. Like, this guy's one of the best left/right wingers in the league, potentially. So, with that said... Actually, how much is Harris wanting already? Yeah, he wants a decent chunk too. Let's do 1 year. Let's also add that clause. That adds enough interest. Let's drop this down. And we'll get you to maybe around 3.5. And then I will probably get Jocelyn back too. Ashton and Terry are going to be interesting ones. Terry I could honestly get back. I think he's cheap enough. But Ashton I'm not too sure on. But I want to try and keep a lot of this team together, but also make some adjustments in free agency. So we'll see if we end up doing anything like that in next episode in terms of free agents. I hope there's some good free agents available, because that would obviously help things. Svedberg will be cracking our defensive lineup next season as well, so that's also good that we let go of Jersina, I guess. So all those guys accepted, which is good. We have $23.36 million. These guys are going to cost us not a crazy ton. Jocelyn, let's see about you, though. You wanted 2 years. You wanted a modified no trade clause. You have a lot of organizational interest, so should be able to get you down to like 4.3, which, to be honest, for like a third-line center is actually kind of perfect, so I'll do that. And I think I'll also hold on to Terry just in case we need him. He might be in the AHL again next year, but... I think holding on to him for like even $9.75 if he would accept that is a no-brainer almost. If he's like a third line checking for it. So let's just try that out. See if he'll accept that. And then, yeah, the RFAs. I think we should be able to get a lot of these guys back. The real question I have is if there's going to be anything free agency-wise that we could bring in to upgrade this team more so. So, looks like Terry and Jocelyn both accepted, I think. Yep, Jocelyn and Terry are back. We have $20 million. Smith is not going to cost us a ton. Hybert and Lysak will be relatively cheap, potentially. Like, maybe like $1 million players for Hybert and Lysak. Smith is going to be the most expensive of the RFAs. So, let's just say this is like 4, 5, 6, maybe at most $7 million for these three dudes. Ashton would be 9. That would be like 16. We would have $4 million in cap space. I think I have to let go of Ashton, to be honest. I feel like it's not a bad time to let him go. He is technically our best center, but he's also 32 years old at this point. We have Macklin in maybe as our second line center next year. Jocelyn is a third line guy. Jensen comes in as a fourth line guy because he's a young rookie. He is a sniper, though, which is interesting. So maybe he gets an elevated role. We also have some other depth options in case. We would just need a new top-line center if we'd let go of Ashton. The winger depth, I mean, we have a lot of guys competing for similar roster spots, but at least we have people we could call up if we need to. Defensive core will be needing at least one more defenseman. Yeah, we're going to need a new defenseman. That's not a bad idea. But the only thing is it can't be a top 4. It would have to be another top 6 to play with Svedberg and an adept defenseman. At least I think. Yeah. And then goalies, we have enough as well. So I think I think I'm going to let go of Ashton. I don't know if I get to look at the people that might head to free agency this offseason. Let me take a look. Pending free agents. Is this for this season? I don't know if this is for this season or next year, technically. Let me take a look at these dudes here and see if they are at the end of this year. Yeah, these guys are the pending free agents right now at the moment. It's upcoming season. So is there any crazy good centers other than Ashton? Or should I just hold on to Ashton at this point? There is a guy that is 85 as well. First line forward in Owens. But he's 37 years old at this point. He is still a very solid producer at his age, though. 81 points this last year. And he's barely played in his career in the playoffs. He has won a Stanley Cup. No, he's lost in the Cup finals with Chicago, but never won a Cup. There's our former top line. Oh my goodness. We're bringing back Ronnie Leahy would be something. He has been very solid as a St. Louis Blue since he left us. But obviously he's still looking for a Stanley Cup win, I think. Yeah. But he might be asking for a lot on the open market. There's not really a ton of crazy good centers. Like, there's some 84 overalls, which is good. But Ashton as an 85, maybe bringing him back's not a bad idea at this rate. There's also this Regier guy in Tampa who could head to free agency, but they'll probably sign him. It was a younger option. I could bring back Leahy, but I think for the time being, maybe I will re-sign Ashton, but maybe he gets dealt or somebody else gets dealt. I don't really know, but I think there's not enough good free agents that are coming from centers that we need to maybe hold on to Ashton, as weird as it sounds. So, what is he asking for again? He does actually have a lot of organizational interest, so I guess I can drop this down quite a bit, which is good. So I should be able to get him for like maybe even close to 8, which I think is good considering he's going to be one of the best free agents on the market in terms of centers. So we probably could get him for like 7.6 for 4 years. So it's less money, I think, than he was asking for before. He's definitely going to get a lot more if he's a free agent, but he would take a bit of a discount to stay with us, I guess. So, you know what? Let's give Ashton a contract just because I don't see a better option out there free agency-wise. If there was a better option out there, I would probably not sign him. And that's going to knock us down to $13 million after signing just Ashton alone. So we probably won't have a ton of cap space, so we might still have to make some movement potentially. I'm almost thinking about signing Smith already, but I do want to make sure we have as much cap space as possible just in case we want to make some crazy adjustments this off season. So looks like we did get an accept from Ashton, so he accepted that nice little discount, which is great. Let's simulate to free agency now and see what is available. We did just lose our associate coach, but that's not a huge loss. I do want to look at the coaches available as well while we're at it. So let's actually look at the coaches first and foremost, just because, like I said, that could be something we look into adjusting for the final season is a new head coach. This guy could end up being our assistant coach, but is there a coach out there with A+ rating or A rating that would fit this team really nicely right now, at least? It's obviously tough to tell during the actual offseason itself, but obviously we don't want a B-rated coach or else that might be making us worse. So in terms of those A coaches, who is the best of the bunch for us? For Borny's a 46, Kubos is a 47, Kindle, who we just let go of, is a 48, and Mahalik is a 47. So hypothetically, bringing Kindle back as our head coach would not be a bad idea, but we could always go for somebody else instead, like McCulloch or Kubos, to try and get more out of our team offensively. Yeah, or we could just bring one in as an associate coach and then try and see if they're good as a head coach as well. But yeah, I don't see really a coaching option that makes me say, hey, we need to get this guy. All right, so that's coaches dealt with. Let's take a look at, I guess, the available free agents. Like I said, I don't think we really need a ton unless we want to upgrade some stuff. So from like a forward perspective, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then there's guys like 15, 16. Like, we do have a lot of people competing for roster spots. Also, Lysak and Hyber technically too. So we could definitely make some trades and upgrade this team. But I don't know who I would part ways with. Because here's our center depth. I think that might be fine for next season unless there's a better option on the block. From a left wing perspective, I don't think there's really adjustments we need to make here. Obviously, Terry and Girard are kind of fighting for a roster spot, though, so maybe flipping one would make sense. Markstrom's okay. It's like kind of a depth forward, probably. But he might be listed as a fourth liner. We could always still part with guys like Trotter as well if we really want to, because Trotter's more offensive. Maybe making that bottom six more defensive wouldn't be a bad idea. And then from a right wing perspective, this is probably the weakest point, but it seems like around the league there's not a lot of good right wingers. So we could upgrade this area, or we could just leave it as is. Likely the lines would be Schmaltz top line or Dempsey top line. Harris would be third line, and the other one of these guys would be second line. House would probably be fourth line / depth forward. And then defensively, right now we have Holmstrom, Schaefer, Ekblad, and Svedberg, and then we also have Smith as that RFA. So we technically have 5 defensemen. We need a 6th one for sure, and we also need a depth defenseman. Now, all of our defensemen that we'll have, though, are all top 4s instead for Svedberg, so the thing we definitely need is just a top 6 defenseman. We can't really upgrade our top 4 unless we trade somebody out potentially, I guess. And then goaltending-wise, we obviously have a lot of goalies, so we don't really need them. So we don't really need a ton in terms of free agency unless we move out people. So let's take a look at what's available and see if there's anything that would be worth moving out so we could get these guys in. So in terms of goalies, obviously we don't need goaltenders, but I still will show you guys the best goalies available and every position. So Kelpinen is by far the best goalie available in free agency this offseason. From a defensive standpoint, like I said, we need a top 6 defenseman to probably play on the right side next to Svedberg. So if we're looking into that, there is an 86 at 25, which is pretty good, but obviously that's too good for that top 6 spot alone. We'd probably be leaning towards somebody like this Ollie guy. He's very cost effective. Only wants like 950. He is an OFD though, which I don't really know if I like for a top 6 pairing. But we definitely could find somebody like at the 78 overall range that should be relatively cheap. Now, Ollie is the cheapest of the bunch, but there's also like Goulet, who's an enforcer defenseman. Has he ever played in the NHL? Yes, he has. 33 games with 37 penalty minutes. This guy's kind of intriguing. Not that I like enforcer defensemen fully, but very cheap, and he's a right-handed D-man, so maybe we could look into him. We could bring back Jersina if we want to for that top 6 pairing, but I'm not too sure. There's also a young guy in Tuomo Ruutu, which we've seen him before. I think he won an award, didn't he? No, he didn't. Where did I see this guy? Was it in the playoffs? I don't even know. I feel like I've seen him on the block or something like that, but he might not be bad as a young option. So there is right D-man. Left D-man wise, the best is an 84 in Mercier. I think this guy's won some Norrises, hasn't he? I don't know, he won a Stanley Cup. I do remember this dude, though. There's our former defenseman, Lindsay. There's also Haken, which I think is the one that played with us. Yes, it is. Maybe we should have held on to some of those guys longer, though. Maybe that's been our major problem, is a lot of dudes have left our team. We could always bring back Salo for the top 6, but I don't really like what he did for us in the playoffs. So there is defenseman. From a forward standpoint, like I said, if there's any really good forwards, maybe we can upgrade a specific area, but we have to think about who we'd move out. Right wing wise, there's not really much out there. Eli Anthony has finally left the Montreal Canadiens, though. Actually, he left last year. I didn't even realize that. He was in Anaheim last season, but career long have for the most part. Has won Stanley Cups as well, or actually won Stanley Cup and a Conn Smythe, but I don't think he's worth $6 million at his age. He's kind of basically like a right wing version of Crane anyways. Aside from that, not a lot of good right wingers, so I don't think we need to really upgrade the right wing spot unless some of these guys similarly good. There is Hunt, who we've seen in Columbus. This guy's become a really good goal scorer as of late, but is he what we need? I'm not too sure. So we could look, but I'm not too sure if these are what we actually want on our roster. From a left wing perspective, there is an 87 overall at 25 in Sunfist. Interesting. Sunfist, huh? I think I do remember this dude. There's also Gogol, Silas Gogol. I recognize him from the Calgary Flames. This guy's a pretty solid player too, but he is a left wing, right wing. Hypothetically, that would be a nice right wing upgrade on our top 6 if we wanted, but I'm not sure if he's worth 13 million. Actually, we don't even have that cap space, really. Like, he'd literally take almost all of our cap space, and we have some RFAs holding out right now. So probably wouldn't make sense to go after a top guy like that. There is also Davidson, 85 at 35. Mikas, 85 at 30. Rintoul. So there is some decent wingers, but I don't know if they're worth the money that they're asking for. Like, all these guys are asking for over 7 million almost. So it might be just keep it the same for now, it seems like. And then next season, obviously, if we're not playing the best, we can make adjustments before the deadline, that type of thing. Centers, Owens is heading to free agency, the guy we were just mentioning about. This guy can produce, but I don't know if he would have been an upgrade, really, from Ashton, because he's old. There's also our former center, Leahy. It would be really nice to have Leahy back as the Islanders, because I wanted to kind of hold on to this guy long term, but I didn't end up. He is still a fantastic player, but he's 34, and he's kind of exactly what we have throughout our lineup. Like, he's basically like Mäkinen almost at this point, but just a bit younger. So I don't really see a forward here that's worth signing, but maybe you guys do see one. I honestly don't know. Is there any interesting RFAs? Because we might as well give up compensation in the last year if there's anybody interesting. Fedorov, Sprua, Anderson, not really in centers. Metropolit for left wingers. Right wingers, obviously a couple of those are ours, and Lysak and Hybert. Not really offensively whatsoever. Smith is the best defenseman, that's an RFA. And Richardson as well. Smith is actually asking for less than Richardson, which is interesting because he's a higher overall and he's younger. Maybe we should just bring back Smith at that point, just so we don't risk having to overpay on him. And then there's no RFA goalies, so I don't really see much in terms of signing this offseason, unfortunately, which is what I was kind of hoping for. But maybe there's some players on the block that are interesting. So let's take a look at the trading block as well, just in case there's any trades we can make to maybe upgrade certain areas. So there is a defenseman here that's lowly potential, but listed as a top 4. I was hoping to be a top 6, but yeah, probably can't use a guy like that just because we already have our top 4 pretty much set in stone. Boston has goalie, but that's pretty much it. Buffalo has Axelson as a playmaker. He is a very solid playmaker, but I'm looking more for a goal scorer pretty much. This guy's definitely a playmaker, though. Only 4 goals in one season a couple times. Interesting player nonetheless, but I don't think he's what I need. I need more goal scorers. This guy is only signed for 1 year. As we mentioned, he was on the block. He's a solid player, a solid two-way forward, but 12.8 is a high-ass cap hit, and we don't have a lot of cap space for that. Aside from that, not seeing much there. What about Carolina? Nothing there. Chicago, Bobkov, don't need a goalie. Colorado has Emerton on the block. They also have an 87 overall defenseman with 1 year left. If he was actually willing to come here, which I don't think he is, maybe that would be a great shutdown defenseman to have, but we already have kind of our top 4 set. We need a top 6 defenseman, so maybe one of these guys is a top 6. No, they're all top 4s. Damn, man, that sucks. Yeah, these guys are all listed as top 4s. Wasn't Granado one of our prospects at one point? Yeah, he was. That's what I thought. He was that OFD I had for a little bit. Didn't give him much of a chance here. But he's more of a career top 6 almost guy. Just getting into a top 4 role now. Columbus has Smithson on the block, who was just really good this season for goalies. Not that we need a goalie, though. Dallas, nothing. Detroit, nothing. Edmonton, nothing. Florida has Watt on the block as a center. No. Doyle as a power forward on the block. 20 goals last season's nice, but he's not insane. 100 points in 276 games is pretty decent, but he's not got a lot of experience. He has won a Stanley Cup with the Oilers, though, but not a high cap hit, only an 82, so he's kind of similar to a lot of other guys we have on the roster. Pekka Nielakainen is still playing, which is also kind of insane. 46 points last year. I'm surprised he hasn't retired yet, but shout out to Pekka. There's also Sadikov. LA, nothing. Minnesota, looks like prospects mostly. Montreal, same thing. I'm honestly not seeing a lot. We honestly might have to keep this team the exact same going into next season for the most part, other than a top 6 defenseman, which there is this UC Engren guy Not the best awareness, but good shot blocking and stick checking. He might be not a bad option for that top 6 pairing if we wanted to. Or we could just sign somebody else instead, like that enforcer defenseman. Kagerodov's a playmaker. Sugihara has a decent goalie. Don't need him, though. Ottawa's got a coin on the block. He's still dropping off. Still listed as a second-line forward. So this guy probably is a much higher overall than it suggests. He's just not happy with his ice time or something. He was getting 13 minutes last season. But yeah, 39 points, not bad. It's not a bad player. I honestly don't know what his overall is, but I think we have pretty similar players already. Philadelphia has Hope on the block. He would be our last hope, potentially, you know. Pittsburgh, Eckford's a playmaker. Yaskin is a two-way. San Jose's got a sniper on the block, but he's a dropping off sniper, so it's probably not worth it. Seattle, nothing. St. Louis, nothing. Tampa has a goalie on the block and Molly. Toronto, nothing. Utah, prospects, goddamn. Vegas has a top 4 defenseman. They also have a playmaker. Washington has a top 4 defenseman in Jeffrey. We've seen Jeffrey before on the block. He is a good OFD, but he's not what we exactly need, I don't think. There is a right-wing power forward here in Naslund. It was not the best, but he's okay. I don't think he's really what I need either. Kind of similar to a lot of other guys. And then Winnipeg has nothing. So I honestly think at this point, the only thing I do is sign ourselves a top 6 defenseman and a depth defenseman. Everything else I feel like should just stay the same, and we might have to make adjustments throughout the season, but I honestly don't see any big name free agents, any big name trade options that are worth exploring. Now, there could be some that are not on the block that we could look into, but I'm not sure if there's really anything out there for that. Like, it'd probably cost us too much as well. Like, we do have, how much trade value do we have in our system out of curiosity? Like, if I go here and sort by league, how much trade value do we have in our system in general, like, in terms of prospects? Not a lot for unsigned, except for guys like Karostin and Schroeder and Bartley. In terms of our AHL system, not a ton of value other than Buckley, who we just signed for the AHL. Gove has some value. All right. Any other AHLers have value, like for goalies? Oliver has a good chunk of value, same with Canzanello. Of course, Bergenheim and Irwin will have value. Both has a bit of value. And then obviously for draft picks, we do have some picks here. So we could move out some picks if we want to try and upgrade our team in the season. But I think for the offseason, we really don't have anywhere where we could upgrade. We do have cap space to upgrade, but I think we'll have to wait into the season to figure out who we want to bring in to try and help this team. Because there's definitely a bit of a problem if we maintain our roster fully and don't upgrade it at all. But if we find an upgrade that was worth pursuing, I think that can definitely help us a lot more than we would actually think it would. So I think that's all we needed to do, right, in this episode? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our New York Islanders franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the final free agency portion, and we'll start up the final season. We probably won't simulate too much in the final season in next episode, just because I kind of want to take this last season a little bit slower. But obviously, I'm hoping this team, even though we're technically just maintaining the roster, I'm hoping that they're still going to be good next season. But obviously, we barely made it into the playoffs this season, so we probably will be kind of an inconsistent team, which means we might need to still make some more upgrades as the season goes on. But I'm hoping, obviously, that we don't fall off so hard at the beginning of this franchise mode, like this last franchise mode season, that we don't end up making the playoffs. So I'm kind of hoping we could still make it into the playoffs in this final season, but I wouldn't hold my breath, so to speak. So anyways, let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.